Have you ever gone to bed at night wishing that you could be a different person, or you could have a different job, or you could just reinvent your life and just wake up the next day totally in a different place, in a different work, as a different person, as a different personality, even, or different habits? It has happened to me, and I think it happens to a lot of us human beings who are trying to evolve and build our life in the best possible way. And, sometimes you can feel this restlessness of, I can see that the current life I'm living or the way I'm living it is not aligned with what I want. It doesn't fit with me anymore. And the question is, how do you start? Where do you start? How do you bring the changes that you want in your life, particularly if it's big changes and you think, okay, that would be a totally different version of me I would need to bring out there. And I'm here to tell you that's possible. First of all, I've done it. I'm somebody who has switched careers multiple times, done entrepreneurship versus corporate work. I've lived in 6 different countries, so I had to adapt every single time and restart from zero every single time as well. And in general, I've also changed some things in my personal life, some ways I see life, some mindsets, some habits, and I've transformed myself in different areas. For instance, health or finances that were, if I look back at the younger version of me, the younger version of me would be like, are you the same person or are you not? So I've done a few of these transitions and reinventions. And I want to share that with you today because I feel out there, I was, searching YouTube before I prepared this video, and I was looking at what is out there. And a lot of it is like, reinvent yourself in 90 days, reinvent yourself in 12 months and totally change who you are. And I feel there is a lot of like weird messaging in there or like time frame that are absolutely not realistic. At least I don't believe that they are, having done multiple reinventions myself. And I just wanted to give you today basically my own stories, share with you a few moments of reinvention I've been through, some big ones, but also like some smaller ones or some times where I just changed one area of my life, and basically give you the story of where I started from and then what I realize now, looking back at it, are actually the things that helped me, because that might also give you some ideas about, where to start in your own journey, how to navigate maybe fears that you might have around this reinvention, and just giving you different angles, because not every reinvention will be dramatic. Not every reinvention requires you to be like deeply motivated. There are different ways you can approach changing your life and changing it in a way that is sustainable. That is not just, oh, I tried something and then, like, 90 days later, I'm back to the same person I used to be or in the same place. So yeah, this is what this video is about today. So if you're interested in reinventing yourself or doing transitions in different areas of your life, that video is for you. So let me start first with, so one big change I did and one reinvention I did was for my hobbies. One specific area of my life. But in 2013, I was going to the gym and I was just doing that. That was my only hobby there. But I was like really missing something that was a bit challenging, some volunteering or things like this. And I went to a gym where they used to do weird workshops in the weekend. And one of these workshops ended up being pole dance. And I just fell into that world. And what was very interesting here is that I didn't know I wanted to, to start doing this type of sports, but I followed the breadcrumbs. I was like, ooh, that seems challenging. Ooh, I can see how that's going to help me, be more aware of my strength, my flexibility. It kind of like give me like, like this open possibilities of, wow, I can learn so much, and it's very cool and it's very courageous to do this type of sport because you are hanging upside down from very high. And that's how I started that. And then so I did a few classes, and then I explored more the world of circus. So I also tried different other types of sport in this area. And then it happens that they were running the World Sport Championship of pole dance where I was, and I thought, okay, let me just volunteer for it. Why not? So I volunteered there. I was cleaning the pole up and down for 2 days in a row, got a lot of burns. And then I looked at the people who were helping the championship, and there was like this table with very well-dressed judges who were just sitting the whole day and giving grades and things like this. And I thought, maybe I should be doing that instead of climbing up and down. So I, after that, certified as a judge, and then I started judging international competitions, and then I started volunteering more for the organization as well, delivering trainings for coaches and athletes. And then I also certified as how do you call it, head judge, so the person supervising the whole panel. So basically, something that started as just, hey, I'd like to have a new hobby, let me try this thing, completely transformed me into a person who is, first of all, very, very much into sports, but also explore different things, but also transition to like a very high level leadership role in this process. And that taught me a lot about, managing a team, managing my communication, and all these things. And this is something that if you had told the version of me before 2013 that I would be doing this, like sports at high level, elite level, I would be like, what are you talking about? That's not possible. That's absolutely not you. How can you come here? And this is really a reinvention that came from just following the breadcrumbs. I say it always like, follow the breadcrumbs, they are screaming loud at you. But if your brain picks up on something that is actually super curious about, or passionate, or there is a strong interest, and you really want to learn more, you really want to try more, this is not something to discard. This is something to just listen to, because that's where the best adventures are going to be. And that's where you're also going to be able to build the journey. And I feel I was really experimental there. So, I was like, oh, let me try this class. Oh, let me try to be a judge. Oh, I'm a judge. Okay, what is the next step? And trying to build a journey like this by experimenting is something that is actually gonna help you reinvent yourself in a way that is, first of all, joyful. I hope you can hear that, so that I'm very passionate about it. But it's something that's, if I had started from the start, I had say, okay, I want to have to be a high level person in sports. Like, it would not have even been a goal, but it became a goal in the process, and it became something that also allowed me to grow as a person and just grow into a better leader. So all these things just came from following what my brain was saying was interesting, and then continuing to build the journey to keep the interest going and keep the passion going, and then being willing to experiment or see places where I could learn more and just follow that as a practice. So that's one example of what I done, and this took like 7 years in total. So it's quite a lengthy process, but it was always an intriguing one, and one that I really wanted to continue every single time. So it's a kind of like continuous reinvention process. Another thing I've done, which is very, way less impressive, but it's transforming myself into, as I was mentioning, somebody who likes sport and in general practices sport and exercises way better. When I was a younger person, I was way like chubbier. Like I grew like this before growing like this, if you can relate to that. But one thing that was happening is that at school we were really made to hate sports. Like we were exercising, we were doing like things like swimming or like collective sport or like running. And I remember when I was young, I was really, really struggling. Like we were getting grades every single trimester, and my grades at school in all the other things I was learning was around 18, 19 on 20. So very, very high, good grades. For sport, it was around 8 on 20. My entire school years were that low. And it's not because I did not like sport, it's because the way we were being taught to do sport was not fitting my body, was not encouraging, was not challenging in a way that would have been interesting for me. And that's something that when we had the A-level exam, so the final year of school, completely where you have to do sports, they give us the choice, first of all, to choose which sport combination you wanted to try. So I was already able to pick some more strength. But then they also give us the chance to, design what we wanted to do. So for instance, I could say, okay, I was going to do orientation running. What are my goals? My goal is to do it in this time. If I get in this time, this is the amount of points I'm going to get. Now, if I do better, then I can get more points. Or I'm going to give myself an extra challenge here to do the run in this order. That gives me extra point as well. So because there was more choice and more freedom in there, I was able to already start being a little bit better. And I got 18 on 20 for the final A-level exam, which made absolutely no sense to my brain. And after that, I think I left exercise at all because it was not mandatory anymore. So I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to do nothing. It was better. But and it only came after a few years out of school when I started really, I had the burnout when I was doing my PhD. And that's when I started paying way more attention to exercise. And I started going to the gym more frequently. I started what I just mentioned, the pole and aerial sports. And then I started running as well. And I ended up running a marathon. And it was like, if I look back at where I was when I was a student and when I was now, I'm a person who is exercising. Like if you see me, you are like, yeah, she's taking care of herself. And this was a transformation and a reinvention of me being somebody who does not exercise and is a bit on the chubbier side to somebody who actually makes exercise a priority. And that might not seem a big thing, but for me, it's a total reinvention. Like the whole version of me would have never recognized that. I would never say, wow, you're so like, yeah, it's so natural now. It's so part of who I am. And that really came from Really being consistent, basically, and doing the not glamorous work. I think sometimes we forget for reinvention, it's not just about I'm going to do one big thing and then tomorrow nothing. Tomorrow I'm already there. Sometimes it's just that consistency and say, okay, I need to take care of myself. How do I do this? And in this process, I try different sports. I tried different gyms. I went to places where there were classes, so there were people around to support me. I also, kind of like find ways to do sport that actually I liked, so that there were less resistance or less friction. So for instance, if I go to the gym, it's like simple stuff, but I will do the classes because I know if I go there, then I will continue. I will finish the exercise because there are other people around me. So anything that actually makes the process easy to reinvent myself and to be in this consistency is something that I pay nowadays attention to. It's like, how can I remove the friction point? How can I remove the resistance? How can I make it so easy that my brain will not resist me at any point and I can really get into this person? And in the process as well, I've noticed that I was piling up reasons to do exercise. Like nowadays, if you ask me why I'm exercising, well, I can tell you there are like negative reasons. Like I've seen in my family what happens when you don't exercise. And when you get older, I've seen all the consequences health-wise, the lack of mobility, the lack of freedom, all the consequences on bad tension, overweight, and all these things that I don't want to be like this. So I have a kind of anti-vision about what the version of me without exercise will look like. And I don't want to end up in this place. I'm somebody who is very freedom-driven. So if freedom is not there, then it's a big gap for me. So thinking about the future, it's a mandatory thing. I also can see, okay, like when I exercise, I feel better, I look better, I feel more confident, I enjoy it. It creates variety in my day, so that also brings me some peace and good mental health. Because I'm also a woman, getting older, I'm also with my brain on the autism spectrum, so there are a lot of consequences on the brain health that if I exercise, my brain will stay in a better shape. So that's kind of like prevention as well. But also, I want my body to represent who I am. So if you see me, you will see, hey, that person is a disciplined person who is taking care of herself and respects herself and love herself. I think that's also a message that I put out there just by being myself and doing my work. And yeah, there are multiple reasons like this on, like just like having an anti-vision about what I don't want to happen and making sure that right now I compound the efforts and also all the positive things that can come from it. So that's how I transform myself from somebody who was not an exercise fanatics towards actually a person who is doing it every single day and not even thinking about it anymore. And that really came from the consistency, from creating the right ways to not have friction or resistance, and then also having all these reasons piling up and having them so clear in my head that I have all the emotional reasons to do things. I don't negotiate with my brain about it. Another change I did, Reinvention, which was a huge one. This was probably the biggest and fastest one I've done, was to change career completely. So going from being an account manager in the flavors and fragrances world and transitioning in less than 2 weeks into becoming a life coach. And yeah, that was 2 weeks only, which is a very, very fast change. And what happened there that was really helpful. So I was in account manager role. There was a bit of uncertainty in the role of what I was going to do next, where I was going to be located. And part of my brain was already feeling that, the type of life that account managers have, always on the road, always traveling, was not necessarily aligned with what I wanted. And I felt there was a bit of lack of freedom there. And at that point was just during COVID. So it was like June 2020, where I started doing a bit of more like personal development online and attending some online trainings. And towards the end of the summer, I ran into a training that was about coaching. It was like an online summit about coaching, and they were talking about what coaches do, and I was like, could that be like a side hustle thing? I already started putting this in my brain, and then like 2 weeks later, I had done a little bit more thinking, and I was like, no, actually, that can be even a full-time job. That can be something I can start now. I had the money to do it. I had the time. I did not really have like a good prospect for my career. So I was like, let's go. And really using the momentum as well, that during COVID, more and more people were doing things online, particularly in terms of personal development. So in that specific case, I really use momentum. I use momentum to get me started. I use momentum to keep me going as well. And, I took advantage about all the things that were going on in the world as well. And that reinvention also came from being around the right people, particularly the other coaches, because I feel like a lot of time when you want to reinvent yourself, sometimes it's about being around the people who trust that you can achieve it. or being around the people who have already done it so that you can see like role models and you can have somebody to look up and say, oh, okay, yeah, no, see that works actually. I can try. Brian, don't be scared. Somebody else has done it before. And that's a big thing about reinvention. Sometimes it's finding the right people. Sometimes it's not telling the people that you know that you want to reinvent yourself because they might come on the way and they might be scared for you on your behalf. And just spend more time around people who have already the confidence, because then you can borrow it. And I remember my certification week. So I decided to become a coach, declare myself to the world directly so that I had the identity already and I could start playing with this word and calling myself a coach. And then I did my certification like 2 weeks later. Yeah, a little bit more, like a month. And this is a certification week where you just go for 4 days in a row and you just practice, 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 practice. And then you can go and you can directly start coaching. And during these 4 days of practice, it was really amazing because I was around other coaches who are also redoing their certification. They've been there for years. They have so much knowledge, so much confidence. They know how to guide you, and just being around that really was a very strong yeah. It really helps me say, you know what, like yes, I can achieve that. And yeah, just using this momentum, using the right group of people to kick off things was really important, and staying in touch with some of them as well as I was going through the first year of the business was really helpful. And I feel like, yeah, just sometimes you just have all the right conditions. If you have the right conditions, don't really hesitate too much. Just go for it and start your journey. I would just say, notice if you are doing this reinvention like this, like in a strong will, strong momentum, just pay attention, because you are still a beginner, so you might still have things to learn. So stay a little bit humble, really take the lessons and listen a little bit. So don't just go like, yeah, I'm a different person now, it's done, everything is sorted. No, it will come and catch up with you a little bit later, because there will be things that you did not know you need to work on to transform yourself, and they will be popping up a bit later. But it actually works, and actually it can really give you a good start. So yeah, if you want to do the fast version, that's possible. Just stay humble. And then more recently, other things that I'm looking at, it's more like changing things in my life, like specific areas in my life. So for instance, relationship is one. And in this one, I'm taking more like an approach of reinvention that is a bit slower, that is more based on clarity. If you heard what I said so far, most of it was action based, like let's go and let go, or like try, more like experimenting. But sometimes you also need a bit of clarity. And for me, in this particular case, I'm starting first with like more working on my anti-vision. So what do I really absolutely do not want in my life anymore, and kind of removing. Trying to remove my old beliefs, trying to remove, like, yeah, the people that don't fit, but also because I know what I don't want, then I know a little bit better what I want as well. So it kind of helps me have some clarity about what I'm looking for before I go take more actions, and I will go there in the next few months. But right now it's really just finding this more a more grounded place about, if I look at all the relationships I had in the last 20 years, let me put on paper what I want, what I don't want. And just like also trying to remove the cliches that sometimes you can have in your life, like the things that society expects from you. And for me, it's more like doing this kind of decluttering mentally, what's happening, before I can move forward. And in this process, I'm also thinking about how to call that, what I want to do, because sometimes a bit of the transition and the transformation is there, is that you need to change your behavior. So I'm also thinking about, okay, if I say this is my anti-vision, that means that this is my vision. What would a person who already has that do? How would I think differently? How would I behave differently? And starting to try to embody some of these practices. So for instance, boundaries is something that I know I need to do way more. And you can go and watch, I did a video recently on the boundaries glow up that I needed. And yeah, just this boundary work, it's like work in practice that is already building towards reinvention, but it's part of the consistency work you have to do that is a little bit a bit slower, but I know it's important, and I know I need to be in this mindset. Simpler thing as well, I need to be somebody who is more explicit with people, because I tend to like in the sense of like validating them and expressing appreciation, for instance, because that's also something that a person who has great quality relationship will also be doing. So if I'm not doing it yet, that means that I'm also not creating the right condition to have the right people there. So all this thinking is ongoing, and I'm starting to put the smaller steps, and it's just looking at behaviors and keeping it very simple. But like, what are the behavior of somebody who would already have reinvented themselves and would already be where I want to be? What would they be doing differently? And just start doing that. And another part of it is also sometimes in this process, particularly, it's like, do I need to reinvent myself or do I need to rebrand myself? Because it's not necessarily that I need to reinvent who I am as a person and the way I always show up, but sometimes it's just about the communication. It's just about, yeah, just rebranding myself as a specific type of person so that the people who want to spend time with somebody like me would like to spend time with somebody like me. And it's more like, like you would do for a business. If the business is not clear, the clients are not going to come and buy from you because you make no sense. And it's the same thing with relationship. If people cannot tell directly, oh, she's the type of person who is actually very supportive and very thoughtful and also very playful. Okay, yeah, I want to spend time with that. And it's like time with her. Sorry, not with that. But yeah, this process is also like sometimes you don't need really a big reinvention. It's just like rebranding and how you show up externally, how you communicate, that will just make the difference. So yeah, also thinking that sometimes it's not like a big massive change you need to do. So yeah, these were some examples of reinventions I've done. So as I was saying, like big changes, smaller changes, fast changes, and things that might have taken me years and years to get there. And it's always a mix of action and a mix of clarity. I would say, though, the action is more efficient for you to get the clarity as well. If you want to reinvent yourself and you don't know where to start, just start, like do little things, follow the breadcrumbs, or start thinking about what you don't want and then what a person would do differently in that case, and start playing with that and get in the position where you can create the change. And I would say also, stop romanticizing the speed or a specific time frame. If that gives you motivation to have the discipline and work towards, and that works for your brain, go for it. But I would also say be careful of not going too fast, because reinvention is, at the end of the day, we are spending our whole life reinventing ourselves. I don't know if you have this feeling, but for me, it's like reinvention is my way of life. Like, I know I've done a lot of it. Probably are gonna have way more inventions coming that I have absolutely no clue they are going to happen, but they will show up, and I will, wake up one day and be a total plot twist, and I've done something different that my younger version would not have understood. So yeah, give yourself the space and the time frame that fits better for you, and don't put too much on one specific goal. And also pay attention, I would say, to the journey, because on the way of doing things differently or trying to reinvent yourself, you're going to learn skills, you're going to learn mindset and things and habits that can actually transform you in other areas of your life as well. So it's not just one thing that you might reinvent. You might reinvent a lot. So just pay attention to this sign as well if you get a little bit discouraged in the process, because there is transformation, there is growth always. And yeah, if you are new to this channel, my name is Chloe, and I'm currently a guinea pig for a 80 days video challenge that I gave to myself until I turn 40. And I share everything that I've learned through the last years, everything that I'm taking with me to my 40s, everything that I'm unlearning and leaving behind, and hopefully everything that will help me build my best life on my own term in the way that makes me feel free and happy. So if you are interested in that, keep following. Today is day number 22, so I still have 58 days to go, and I see you tomorrow for another video.